Was Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke discussing his inflation outlook before the House Budget Committee today. And if my next guest has his way, inflation will be the only issue on the Fed's plate. Representative Kevin Brady is the top Republican on the Joint Economic Committee. He's drafting legislation that would focus the Fed on a single mandate for price stability. And Congressman Brady joins us now from Capitol Hill. Congressman, welcome to Bottom Line. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for letting me join you.
Congressman, the Fed did declare that 2% inflation target last month. Is that good enough, or do you want the Fed to go further?
You know, I think that's the right target generally, and I think the point they're making here is, in the long term, monetary policy, what they can control can only impact prices. And the truth is, if they focus on that and do that well, the inflationary, in effect, mandate, they actually can help grow this economy over the long term. I think the problem is this dual mandate. You know, we hold them accountable in Congress for what they can't control, which is unemployment, and what they can control, and I think it's conflicting.
Congressman, you do want the Fed to drop the employment mandate, but in a press conference last month, Chairman Bernanke did say there should be a balanced approach. Why do you disagree?
Well, his point, I think, was, look, we'll do what you direct us to do, and if you give us 2 mandates, we'll do 2 mandates and do our very best at it. But then he immediately followed up with our point, which is, yes, over long term, we can only control prices, and that, done right, can actually boost the economy. And so he's saying, I think, what you would expect him to say, but now there really is, I think, a general consensus. The Fed's trying to do too much. It's fiscal policy. It's what we need to do here in Washington that actually get this economy going.
But, Congressman, you know, you've heard the criticism of Congress that maybe the Fed has to step in because lawmakers aren't doing their jobs. They aren't doing enough. How do you respond to that criticism?
I think it's probably the reverse, because the Fed has been trying to provide a new medicine, a new prescription almost every month. You know, without anyone catching their breath. It's allowed Congress to void the decisions, again, to make sure we send a signal we're not raising taxes, especially on job creators, to actually put real reforms together on Social Security, Medicare, what the market's longing for us to do. I think the Fed's action actually gives Congress an excuse not to do it, and so it's time for us to do our job.
Congressman Brady, you do plan to introduce that legislation this month that would focus the Fed on price stability instead of employment. Do you think you're going to get the votes in an election year to pass that?
You know, this year may be a little dicey, mainly because, you know, a lot of people don't want to deal with a bigger picture issue like that. But I think the principles, which is focus on what the Fed can do, open it up, make it more transparent and accountable, you know, allow the Federal Open Markets Committee to include all the regional Fed presidents, so it's not just a Washington, New York centric group, and then make sure that we actually have a defined lender of last resort so we don't go through another bailout process. There is, I think, strong bipartisan support for the principles.
Chairman Bernanke called on Congress to balance its desire to cut deficits with policies that could help boost the economy in the short run. The chairman said, quote, even as fiscal policymakers address the urgent issue of fiscal sustainability, they should take care to not unnecessarily impede the current economic recovery. Are those 2 goals, as Chairman Bernanke said, compatible?
You know, I think yes, from this standpoint. Even with the push from House Republicans to make we think, much more helpful spending reductions right now, truth is, in this check and balance, we aren't making those sharp turns. On the other hand, we're also not making the substantive turns we need to make, again, in our entitlement reforms that would send a signal to the marketplace we're going to get our financial house in order, restore confidence to business investors throughout the country. So, you know, I think in a sense those goals are compatible, but Congress, again, I think keeps punting off the decisions they need to be making now.
Congressman, we've had some positive economic data as of late. Factories are making more goods. Americans are buying more cars. The jobless rate's near its lowest level in almost 3 years. And employers have produced 6 straight months of hiring. Good enough, but not good enough, in your opinion?
Yeah, exactly right. We should be so much farther along right now. We really need 200,000 to 400,000 new jobs every month steadily for several years to work this off. I want to believe the rosy estimates by the White House, but I think the Congressional Budget Office numbers were more sobering, higher unemployment both this year and next. And what I looked at was that it won't be till 2015 until we start substantially to get to pre-recession levels. That means from recession recovery 8 years. It's too long. I think we need to rethink the path the White House has us on right now.
Congressman, we have about a minute left. Yesterday, you and your fellow negotiators agreed to try to extend a payroll tax cut worth about $1,000 through the end of the year. But how do you pay for it without increasing the debt?
Well, that is the key on the House side. One, we believe you ought to extend it for the full year, but not leave that gap in Social Security revenue that's so important. Unemployment extended for the full year, but with some reforms at the state level to get people back to work, and a longer-term solution for our Medicare physician providers. We're just getting into now how the Senate and the House will pay for it. That'll be the controversial and probably the last portion of the discussions. What I do like is it's open, it's on C-SPAN, publicly available, not being done behind closed doors.
Representative Kevin Brady, top Republican on the Joint Economic Committee, representing the 8th Congressional District of Texas. Congressman, thanks so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Take care.
You too.